All right, we're going live here tonight. Just got back from the Senior Bowl. I got a lot of things to tell you about how people feel about Jacksonville. We'll do it all here today or this evening on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars, where you can find us wherever you get your podcast, man. You can look wherever you watch them, wherever you listen to them, and make sure you tap in to Locked On Jaguars each and every day so you do not miss an episode. It is Crossover Thursday. There's only one crossover that is going on, but it is still nonetheless presented by PrizePicks. Download the app and use the code Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. What is up to the everydayers? Couldn't wait to get here tonight to bring you this live show. I heard that while I was on the road, Liam Coen had a sort of a roundtable. I will discuss that tomorrow. We won't. I have to dissect it and listen to it, and of course do my due diligence. And I could not do that driving down I-10. So we'll get to that tomorrow. But today on this show, what we're going to end up talking about Senior Bowl help. I'm going to tell you some of the guys I like, and I'm going to tell you some of the guys I like for different reasons too that can all play. Defensive coordinator and staff possibilities. We can definitely get into that. And then good things that I heard about Liam Coen. That's where we're going to start from the very top. Now, I won't tell you who said it because I didn't ask him I didn't ask him, could I use the information that they gave me. But I will tell you it was a who's who of all of the people that you see on TV all the time. And the first thing, I find it funny that some of the things that were said to me from people that recognize, my face or my voice or whatever. And then, of course, I had branded stuff on, so they knew who I was. The first thing they said was, we got to tighten them up with that Duval, man. I even was at, there was a bar called Haberdasher where everybody was. I had some people ask me to do it, and I did it right there on that street in downtown Mobile. And I told them how it's supposed to go. In fact, Clay Harbor, former Jaguar Clay Harbor, said, give us one man and show us how it's supposed to sound. Former Jaguar Clay Harbor, we hung out a little bit and had a good time. But seriously, when it comes to Liam Coen, what folks said was, I think they got it right, Wig. They knew him. They were like, you never know how it's going to go, but I think the Jaguars did the thing that they needed to do to get a clean reset. And they got a really, really good coach who's super, super smart. And he ain't going, he's one of those dudes that I don't care what you're running and what the other team is running. You will have confidence that he can match them. He can manufacture points. They believe he is going to help Trevor Lawrence tremendously. They say he's a great communicator and that he is well spoken of amongst coaches. All right. They also said this, and I'm going to tell y'all this. Everybody defending them against Tampa's fans, just know this. Everybody feels like y'all are doing the right thing, that Liam did the right thing, that it was a situation where your dream is right in front of your face. So guess what? You're going to go out and grab it. And they also think Tampa's fans are being a little bit childish and a little bit silly. When you're talking about a dude making $50 million and you're thinking he's going to sit there and risk his chance to do that. And it's almost like Tampa looks like a jilted lover. I don't want to put a ring on your finger, but guess what? I don't want you to marry anybody else. I just want you to stay here for me. Now, we can reverse that around. We can reverse that the other way and say that Liam was the guy. So I don't want anybody getting on me saying, why are you trying to compare it to a woman who got hurt? Men get hurt too. So guess what? Maybe it's the guy who has who wants to be married and the girl says, no, I don't want to. So, a jilted lover who didn't want to do something. And when somebody else steps up to the plate that does it, now they lose their mind. And that's exactly what Tampa's fans sound like to people who are neutral. I'm not that intimidating in person that people have to make stuff like that up. I believe them. I think they're telling the truth. And I do. It's to the point now where the first couple of days I had my boxing gloves on with those people, but I'm not going to do that anymore because you know what? Somebody told me a long time ago, if you're arguing back and forth with a fool, somebody passing by just thinks it's two fools arguing with each other. So I'm not going to sit here and argue with people and go back and forth with folks that think or believe that a dude taking generational money to do a job that his dad did on a lower level, and now he's carrying that legacy on the ultimate level for him and his family. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Maybe the cannon's down there going off too much and it's busting these people's eardrums and it's causing them to lose their mind. I don't know what it is. And they can say it's not how he did it. It's not what he did, it's how he did it. How about this? And I say this is the last thing I'll say about it. How about let him do a second interview if you're confident that he's going to come back, and then don't make your offer contingent on him not doing the second interview. That's like twisting somebody's arm and giving them an ultimatum. If you ever tell me anything like that, I'll tell you to stick your job where you can't even see it. Because the bottom line is you can't hold people back and strong arm people in it. You think you're the mob or something? Come on, man. Come on, y'all ain't won that much. You got 2 Super Bowls. I feel you, right? But you're acting like y'all are the Chiefs or somebody. Y'all need to pipe down and relax. We never had no beef with Tampa fans. In fact, the people that travel to games at Tampa always spoke very highly of them. I've had media people say their press box, they got carving stations in there. They treat the media like kings down there. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't understand being petulant babies about something, about a guy who did something that all of y'all would do. And you ever sit and think about this? Maybe he didn't pick that phone call up. Maybe he didn't answer that phone because he didn't want some people that he really cares about to get all in his ear. And he wanted to actually be alone and think and maybe meditate or even pray about the decision that he had to make. And all y'all got to do, I'm telling you, making yourself look stupid. Especially if you are a ranking member in the media or you are somebody who is a part of that organization and you got something funky to say. Well, guess what? There's a whole bunch of people down there and they get loose and they start drinking at these bars at night and they say the Tampa fans and whoever else has something to say about Liam Coen are idiots. Now, so y'all are justified by getting on those people, and I'm glad. Because the bottom line is we got the coach we want. And then for all of them to say that they dodged the bullet, well, if you dodged the bullet, why in the hell you keep talking about it? If you dodged the bullet, hey, just walk on off and say we dodged the bullet. Jacksonville, that's y'all's problem, right? But that's not the case. They just wanted Todd Bowles gone and wanted to keep Liam Coen. They wanted to do that Bush League stuff that they've done in the past to Tony Dungy and to Lovie Smith. But it doesn't work. We ain't forgot that y'all did that kind of stuff. And we'll bring it up every time if you need us to. But I'm going to tell you right now, the confidence is very, very high in terms of how people feel about Liam Coen. And don't fret, Jaguar fans. I know we defend family, whether they're right or wrong. Y'all are not wrong to defend him. I'm telling you right now, you're not wrong. Just don't waste no more of your time because it's like talking to somebody that can't hear you. That's what Tampa Bay fans. Let them grovel. I hope, you know what they do? I hope they bring back those ugly uniforms, those popsicle uniforms, and they make them wear. They got to make them watch that foolishness all year because of the way they're acting in the offseason. We're going to get to some defensive coordinator and staff possibilities here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you hang in there. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Intuit TurboTax. Taxes used to be waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, right? And then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now, this is what taxes is. It's matching with the TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you know, you can get the most money back, guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is what taxes is. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service, real-time updates, only an iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. All right, second segment here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day, talking about some staff possibilities. Kevin Carberry, the offensive line coach in Tampa, the Jaguars, according to Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, who I saw down at Mobile, I had a couple of conversations with him. The Jaguars were denied the opportunity to talk to Carberry. Carberry actually went to he went to the Bucks basically with Liam. They were together with the Rams, and they were together one time with the Rams. He was let go by Sean McVay, and coaches let people go for a whole bunch of other reasons. Now they may even move on, or they may have to give him a coordinator position, maybe an offensive coordinator or whatever. We'll have to see. So I'll give you the latest news here. I'm looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars coordinator tracker. You guys are probably up on this more than anything. By the way, congratulations to Press Taylor, named quarterback coach for the Chicago Bears. I'm glad he got employed. Stuff is never personal, and Press was always super, super professional. So, these guys do have families, and we think about that. All right, here's the latest. The latest on the front is that the Jaguars have completed an interview with Washington Commanders quarterback coach Tavita Pritchard for their vacant offensive coordinator position. The Jaguars previously interviewed Rams offensive assistant pass game specialist Nate. I'm going to try this name, Shieldhasi, maybe, or Shieldhas. I hope I got that right. I don't want Nate dealing with me. Nate sounds like he can fight, so I don't want him to get mad at me for that. They previously interviewed 4 defensive coordinators. Of course, Las Vegas Raiders defensive coordinator Patrick Graham went back to be on Pete Carroll's staff. They also interviewed Green Bay Packers linebackers coach, defense run game coordinator Anthony Campanile. I hope I said that correctly. Rams defensive pass game coordinator and assistant head coach Aubrey Pleasant, who is Pete Prisco, I believe it was said that Aubrey Pleasant is a very, very good coach. And then also Minnesota Vikings pass game coordinator and defensive back coach Durante Jones. We had to talk about him the other day. So there's a lot to go through with that before we start talking about the GM situation. By the way, there was a report with the GMs. I'll tell you about that everything's cool with Liam Coen. Ian Cunningham, but some of the power stuff, they have to work through the dynamic, and guys have to get that lined up. So that's another thing that may be going on. But in terms of these coaches, I like the approach that they're taking. I like going from the back end to the front. It works in a lot of situations. Joe Cullen, I believe, was the only one they brought in to be a DC here who had been a defensive lines coach. I'm not saying defensive line coach can't get it done, but with the way the secondary played this year, I really want somebody. So a coach told me once, it's easier for a back end guy to see the bigger picture and coach it that way. And it doesn't mean that they can't do it if it's the other way, but you always wonder about a guy who, if he has a defensive line background, what does he do to the back end, or does he really delegate that? So what my friend was telling me is, and shout out to my boy KM, I'll just say KM, he knows what I'm talking about. He told me that it's sometimes easier to delegate the front part of it and then have a guy who knows the back end, the back seven. So that to me, that's why I look at these coaching candidates and I look at who they're trying to possibly get, and I absolutely like it. And then they come from places that run sort of a system where the players and their abilities is highlighted. So once again, players over plays, not trying to, with all due respect to Gus Bradley, not have this system where you just try to find guys that fit into that system a certain way, right? I want the system to be a player-friendly system where whatever the system is, I remember Wade Phillips said this, like whatever the system is, if you're running a system where a good football player doesn't fit, then you need to change your system. Everybody knows that Aaron Donald is the quintessential 3 technique in a even front. He played a 3 technique in an odd front out there, right? You get Von Miller, you get Aaron Donald, and then you get Jalen Ramsey on the back end, and now you have all of these 3 great players, and they just find a way to use them. Jalen played star a whole bunch before he went back outside. So with the Rams, and that was started, of course, with Wade Phillips and then extended to Brendan Staley. And that's another guy people thought was going to probably get a little bit of a look here. The one thing that this does impact And it doesn't matter to me which way that they go, because what matters to me is they're comfortable with which way that they go. Because remember, the word of the day is alignment. Everything has to fit together. Everything has to be complementary. So we want them to be totally comfortable. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I know more about these coaches than these actual coaches that have to make the decision, like Liam Coen. Some people, as I was told this also, some folks have a working relationship with someone, like in the case of Aubrey Pleasant. Sometimes there is a connection between someone you have worked with and that person, that they come from sort of the same tree, they're cut from the same cloth. And then sometimes, get this, because this is what Doug did, I think, when he got Mike Caldwell. Now, Doug and Mike Caldwell were together in Philly, so they knew each other. But it's not just that. It wasn't just the Jim Johnson defense. Mike Caldwell was in Tampa. Doug actually, I recall him saying this, he liked the Tampa defense. Of course, a few years back, we saw Tampa shut down Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. So he wanted that into his, and it helped that his former teammate and someone that was like family to him was the linebackers coach in Tampa. So sometimes these coaches know the thing that gives them fits. And they say, that every time I have to prepare for them, that they're always ready. It's a very difficult thing to get through. So when I coach, I want that on my team. So sometimes they do it that way too. So I'll be interested to see who they end up picking. It doesn't matter to me very much. The one thing that it does impact, and we'll get to the Senior Bowl in a minute. Before the Senior Bowl, you have free agency. Many times these guys come from places where they have established relationship. I think that's why Kevin Carberry from Tampa was the guy that I really wanted him to get, because I wanted Brad Bredesen. I don't think he's going to cost a lot of money, and he's a very good run blocking left guard. And he probably ain't going to cost a whole bunch, right? But he has said that he wants to stay in Tampa. He said he wants to. That's where he wants to be. Because he finally got a chance to play the position. And guess who's the coach? Kevin Carberry. So. If Liam leaves and then Carberry would have left, maybe those two things together would have been enough to maybe convince him to come in here at a pretty good price. If they get Minnesota's pass game coordinator, then you think about guys like Cam Bynum, and you think about guys like not Trent McDuffie. You think about Byron Murphy. You think about people that are scheme specific that have played extremely well. Now, Murphy played better there than he did in Tampa. But that's the thing that, you want. You want that, once again, word of the day is alignment. You want people that understand each other. You know exactly what you're getting. When Patrick Graham was out there, I was sitting there thinking about Hobbs, the corner, even though he plays nickel. Maybe they moved Jarian outside and put Hobbs at the nickel. He's a very good nickel. And then I was thinking, of course, about Trayvon Merritt, guys that may want to follow, and Malcolm Kuntz, who's a free agent. After having a little bit of an off year trying to come back from surgery, there's your pass rusher. And the fact that he's 6'2", 250 doesn't matter, because the traits guy who was here in Jacksonville is gone. You're just going to get good football players. So it does have some impact on free agency, and we'll just have to see the direction that they go in. I'm going to start scouring through all of these guys and looking at the dudes that are on their teams, and then look where they were before that to see if there's a veteran that they coached at some point back in the day. All right, I'm going to tell you some of my Senior Bowl favorites, some guys that play the positions that will help the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll get to that here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Gametime. Man, Gametime is the place you got to go to get any ticket that you need. Attending the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. I remember the excitement and energy of a playoff game that I attended a couple of years ago involving the Jaguars and the Chargers. 27-0. The Jaguars came back. I had to get tickets for my family, and guess what? I got them at Gametime. They have a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets or events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I recently used Gametime Picks to find tickets for a play. That's right. When I go to D.C. for Super Bowl weekend, there's a play that I want to check out, and I'm going to be able to do it because of Gametime. The Super Deal was especially impressive, offering the best value for the event. The app's features like seat views before You buy and all-in pricing with no surprise fees at checkout. I love that. I hate surprise fees. Made the experience smooth and reliable. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'll spell it for you. LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What time is it? It's game time. Somebody told me I got a typo in my description. I can't change the typo in the description until I finish recording, so I will fix it. I appreciate you. I just drove 7 hours, man, and walked in the house 15 minutes before I started recording, so y'all forgive me. All right, Senior Bowl, let's get to it. Lots of good players at positions where Jaguars need players. Lots of intriguing players where you might not think that they do need players. Like, for instance, the tight end position. They have Evan Ingram. Doesn't sound like Evan Ingram's going anywhere. They have, of course, Brenton Strange. So you're like, Wig, that's not a real big priority. Okay, so what if I could find a guy who would be the third tight end who's a combination of both of those guys? And I talked to Clay Harbor about this, that having a move tight end is a bit of a tell, because you know you ain't trying to block nobody, right? And then you got a blocking tight end who doesn't catch. Every now and then you can fool somebody and catch him all alone, and he can do something. What if you got a dude where he's in the game, he does both, and nobody knows whether or not he's doing one thing or the other? That's a pretty good deal to have. This tight end class is loaded. Elijah Arroyo is my dude. And I know everybody wants to talk about the kid from Penn State, but he's going to be gone with the Jaguars. Well, not the first pick, but I don't think the Jaguars are going to use the fifth pick overall or any pick if they move down to take a tight end. But around that third round, man, there's some very, very interesting people. Harold Fannin Jr. is a little bit of that move tight end I talk about, but Terrence Ferguson is a big kid from Oregon who can really, really get after it, along with Elijah Arroyo that I really, really do like. And I actually like Mason Taylor a whole bunch from LSU. Jake Burningstool is another cat that I think is super, super athletic. And then, there's just the kid from Texas that wasn't here at the Senior Bowl, but Delk, he can really play. And there's some people out there now that can really get. I think Delk plays for Georgia. The other kid I'm talking about. But this tight end class is really, really loaded. The wide receiver class is sneaky good. Everybody says this wide receiver class sucks. Maybe for first rounders. Maybe you got Luther Burden, and of course you got Big Ted McMillan out of Arizona. But don't get it twisted. There's a lot of guys that's going to play. You just think about all those dudes that Green Bay has, man. And not even Watson. The other guy, Reed, and all of those kids that they have running around catching the ball. There's a lot of people like that. Two of them are Iowa State. Jaden Higgins, big kid, 6'3.5", 6'4". And then Jalen Noel, who's a slot guy, right? He kind of reminds you of Xavier Restrepo. They're kind of like the same guy. And Restrepo, he has a bit of an aura about him as well. So, yeah, those guys look good. Tez Johnson, a lot of people been getting on my case. Tez Johnson was very, very good in a very Tank Dell way. I just see guys that big, and y'all think Tank Dell, and I think Tutu Atwell. I can't help it. I'm sorry. But he's a guy that's a slot receiver who's going to help somebody that needs a lot of speed. I prefer my guys to be a little bit bigger than that, but it is what it is. You like who you like, and nobody can tell you any different. Jalen Royals look good. Big kid from Utah State. I really, really liked him. I'm not going to get sucked into the Arian Smith thing because he made a couple of nice plays, but Arian Smith dropped so many balls at Georgia, I just can't seem to get past that. I did like Kyle Williams, a kid out of Washington State. I thought he looked very, very good as well. Getting to the DBs, Azaria Thomas from Florida State. I spoke to him. Really good kid, really grounded kid. And I've been saying this the whole time I don't want two big contracts. I know I mentioned Byron Murphy, and I know some people like Charvarius Ward, who'll be like 30 now when the season starts. I don't believe in paying him. I got to remind everybody, when they had Jalen Ramsey, he wasn't the highest paid player. It was A.J. Bouye. It doesn't matter. Long as you have both, you got one guy on a rookie deal and another guy with a big contract. I don't think you can have both. I don't think you want to get into a situation where it looks like Cincinnati's headed with Jamar Chase making $100 million, well, $150 million, and T. Higgins make $110 million. I think it's better when you have a rookie contract. This is where I think the Jaguars need to go out and strike and get a wide receiver veteran if they can get T. Higgins, or if Chris Godwin's health looks pretty decent to them, he'd be a perfect complement, and he knows the offense for Brian Thomas Jr. Go ahead and pay him while Brian Thomas Jr. can be wide receiver one. He just won't be the highest paid player, just like Bouye wasn't cornerback one, but he made more money than Jalen. You can't renegotiate a rookie's deal. So there's nothing to even talk about. But this is where I think, and I know we got Gabe Davis, and I know they got Christian Kirk. If you want another receiver, because of the presence of those two guys, you got to ask yourself, are they going to be there beyond 2025? See, the draft isn't for you to build your team for the next calendar year. Your draft is for you to build your team for the entirety of their contract, right? If you get a good enough player, every time you sit and think about those dudes that you have on the team already, say, well, we got him and I don't really want to get rid of him. I understand it from a financial standpoint, but from a standpoint of production on the field, I want you to remember what their record was. It's 4-13. 4-13. Create competition. Don't fall in love with these dudes just because you've seen them do some stuff, and you that tells me that you think it's scheme only. And it's not. It's talent too, right? If it was scheme only, it was scheme only the first 2 years. They won 9 games. Last year, it wasn't just scheme only. I think it's talent. You know what I'm saying? So people caught up to it a little bit. So you got to be very, very careful with that. The defensive line, oh my God. I don't know if they do need an edge rusher, but the dudes I'm about to talk about, Mike Green ain't going to be there when they pick in the second round. Shamar Stewart is explosive. He looks like Trayvon with a little bit more twitch, maybe not as much strength, and maybe not as much consistency in the run game. These dudes can play, man. They can flat out get it. And I just don't know with those two if they're going to be there when the Jaguars pick in the second round. But I tell you, I did like, there's a kid from Texas named Sorrell. I think that's how you say his name. Yeah, Baron Sorrell from Texas. And he's another kid who would fall under that he doesn't fit Trent's traits. You ain't got to worry about that no more. You're going to get some good football players, man. You ain't got to deal with that at all, okay? I like him. I like the interior guys. Of course, Walter Nolan ain't going to be there. He's a first-step king, by the way. He is going to be a superstar in the National Football League. Really, really, really good player. I like Cameron Jackson, a big kid out of Florida. Now, I could see them getting him maybe in round 3 and putting him and planting him and him being the future playing the 0 or the 1, big kid. Of course, everyone's talking about Deion Walker, the big kid. Some people love him, some people don't. I don't think he's a 3-down guy, but neither maybe is Cameron Jackson, and maybe that's not what they would need him for. I like Terry Ingram Dawkins also. He looked very, very good, but he's also still you'll start to get redundant with guys like Mason Smith and, of course, Armstead going back inside, but mainly because Armstead might not be here more than another season, but mainly Mason Smith because I do think they have a plan for him for the next 3 or 4 years. So how early do you go to get redundancy at that position? Last but not least, the offensive line, the thing that everybody knows we need to improve. The superstar was Gray Zabel. I even spoke to him. And we started laughing because how I told him I was at North Dakota 35 years ago and how cold it was. He told me basically, man, it ain't changed. And we dapped up and we was just laughing. You had to be in North Dakota in the wintertime to realize why. We looked at each other and both started laughing. It was just incredibly cold up there. But good player. Some people say center more than guard. So that sounds like he's this year's Graham Barton, who went to Tampa, who's a very, very important part of what they did. A lot of big dudes. I like Ozzie Trapillo. He just looks the part, man, and he plays. He has a good pedigree, as my friend Tom McManus told me earlier. Other big guys, Anthony Belton. See, Liam says you're going to see that line. You're going to see them and you're going to feel them, right? So I started looking for these big dudes that are physical, that play well in the run game. Marcus Imbo from Purdue, another good player. Josh Connolly was better than I thought he was. Another very, very good player. From LSU, Miles Frazier, an interior offensive line. Jonah Savanea now from Arizona. Really, really solid pick, a player. Maybe right guard, maybe right tackle. this makes me feel like, and then I talked to somebody about Tevin Jenkins too. I'll tell you what he told me. He said the Bears ain't going to re-sign him because he's never healthy. Period, point blank, in the discussion. I don't want to give a dude a whole bunch of money that isn't going to be available. One of my favorite players is Willie Lampkin. I call him Lil Willie. Lil Willie's 5'10", 270. He says he's hell-bent on proving he can play offensive line. He played at North Carolina last year. For him to be at the Senior Bowl, he's good, right? He's just small. He says he'll play fullback or H-back if they ask him to. I think he's going to play for 10 years in the National Football League because he was giving dudes the business. I saw him against Deion Walker, 6'7", 360, and he stoned him. I saw him against somebody else. He slammed him and stepped over him and walked over him like he was a little kid, like a speed bump. Keep your eye on him, man, because if he ends up a Jacksonville Jaguar and he can do what I think he can do from the fullback, H-back position or leading some, I'm telling you, man, y'all are going to go crazy for Lil Willie if he gets picked up here in Jacksonville. And you ain't got to worry about him not being picked because the traits guy's gone. I'm going to tell y'all that, remind y'all that every single chance I get. All right, more on the Senior Bowl tomorrow, a harder look at some things that the Jaguars may be tempted to do in free agency and the draft. I'm glad to be back home, man. Ain't nothing like your own bed. I had a great time. Shout out to Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, Locked On Gators, my buddy Brandon, Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears. It's so late, man, I can't even think correctly. I saw Zach Hicks from Locked On Colts, Aaron Freeman from Locked On Falcons, and my man Jarvis, who does our Locked On show at our Atlanta sports show, Jarvis Jones. If I missed out, if I didn't call your name, if you're a Locked On guy, my bad. But I had a blast seeing all of those cats up there amongst other people. Make sure you check them out for some more comprehensive stuff on the Senior Bowl. And tune in to Locked On NFL. There's a show I did it today. I did do that one this morning, Locked On NFL. I'll be back tomorrow on there with Matt Williamson. In the morning, check out Tyler Rowland. That's the Locked On NFL AM show, and I'm in the barbershop in the PM. All right, you guys. I'm back. Welcome home. It's all off season. It's full throttle. We'll be here every day on Locked On Jaguars, giving you what you got, man. And now it feels good to talk about this stuff because we got new sheriffs on the way. We got new people. We have new energy. So now there's new hope that they're going to get this thing together. We'll see you tomorrow here, and I'm going to go fix that typo, whatever somebody told me about, here on Locked On Jaguars. Take care.